Hi there, my name is Dan, you're watching Night Snax, and today I'm doing something a little different and playing Doom, the original one from 95, I think. Yes, 95. Um, that's because for some reason I find the gameplay of Doom, especially the first episode, to be kinda relaxing and it's almost ASMR. For that reason, I'm also recording the sounds of my keyboard way there in the background. Also, I'm using GZ Doom for this because, of course, it's at least in my opinion the best source port for this game. Um, and also Chex Quest, but if you are, if you are a real fan of Chex Quest, you're gonna play on the original disc that you found in cereal, in Chex branded cereal, and well, anything else just means you're a beta scrub. In any case, yes, I'm gonna include the part when I turn up the music. Not like it's very legible in in the recording. I'm still trying to fix my microphone, which has gone into a state of somehow being way more sensitive than it should be. And my friends on Discord hearing my voice better than the wrong audio from the wrong computer, which probably means I shouldn't be recording right now, but it's been long enough without a video, so hey. You shouldn't stop doing your hobbies because you're bad at them. That's not exactly the message I wanted to put here, but hey, we finished the first level. um, Now, if I remember correctly, I should have a shotgun by now, which is... Oh, there we go. And right off the bat, we are given the greatest shotgun, one of the greatest shotguns in video games. In fact, Doom is the game that made shotguns cool, which is why nobody cares about Doom 3. I mean, it does what it set off to do, making Doom into a horror game. Something nobody asked for. But how do you make a game that's literally called Doom 3 and it literally has a terrible shotgun, which is the one thing you... If you think about Doom, if you hear the word Doom, the first image in your head is gonna be shooting someone with a shotgun and it feeling incredibly satisfying. Double that for the super shotgun, which is... I don't think it even is in Doom 3. Have I been here? Yes. At least Doom 2016 got on the right track. It was incredible that, I mean, it was id Software that made it, so it made sense that they would love the thing that made them famous in the first place. Then again, Activision Blizzard exists, and the one thing they have for Diablo is contempt and $sign in their eyes. In any case, then Doom Eternal came out, and it was a lot of people prefer 2016, and I absolutely understand that because it's hard to improve on perfection. Doom Eternal tried some new things that I liked, some new things that I don't exactly enjoy. And I'm not talking about the platforming, because quite frankly I might be one of the only people who actually enjoyed the platforming. And then it's been a little over a week since Doom Dark Ages came out, and it's the divisive third one, as one might say, which is exactly the thing Doom 3 was, except with a shotgun that feels good, which is already an improvement, I guess. Granted, from what I've seen of it, it's basically the aesthetic is basically Quake, which makes me a bit angry that the newest Quake game to ever come out was Quake Champions, which was a multiplayer-only hero shooter that was just basically Smash Bros for boomer shooters, with Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein and Doom Guy himself, aka the guy there in the bottom of the screen, being playable. And also that one lizard that Jenny Matragrano seems to have a weird crush on. He desires her carnally, would be more of a accurate description, but I'm trying to keep it PG. As Doom as PG as Doom can be, I guess. In any case, I myself kinda like Quake, but I don't really. I was born a bit too late to appreciate the craze for Quake Deathmatch, which kinda kickstarted the very idea of a competitive shooter, and now we are stuck with the new Marathon game being a hero shooter that sucks dick and is full of stolen art, which I absolutely hate, for the record, because I loved Marathon and how full of story it was, like a year after Doom, and then this is how it ends. But I guess in the current economic climate, the only hope a series can have is to die before it gets turned into games as a service, highly monetizable slop for a corporation to make big bucks off of. In any case, I've said I feel like I've just had a realization that I've said in any case a bit too much. Either way, there, nailed it. Well, my father was a big fan of Unreal Tournament, so you can kind of get the age bracket that I'm in. I'm 23, and definitely I was born, after the time of Quake Deathmatch and Doom Deathmatch, if people even, people don't remember that, but it was, I think, kinda popular. It was the reason Doom had mouse look, which is something not many people know. A lot of people seem to have this kind of Mandela effect, where they think Doom didn't have mouse look out of the box, and it's actually probably them confusing it with Wolfenstein 3D, the first one, which actually didn't have mouse look or this handy little mini-map, which makes it, horrendous to play with modern sensibilities, aka after fun was invented. This funny thing is, this like server rack thing used to be they wanted to make this a swastika as a, and I quote, reference to Wolfenstein, but I feel like everyone noticed that this was a pretty bad idea, so they went with this abstract shape. Anyway, I actually have plenty of interesting fun facts about this game, especially if someone's new to this whole retro gaming thing. That being said, we are in the year of our Lord 2025, so by this time the PS2 is retro, and that is painful to hear. I mean, I was born the same year as Devil May Cry 1 came out, and that game is a banger and it's beautiful. And it looks so much better than anything on the PS1. That was the biggest jump, and I still believe that the PS2 is the greatest console in the history of gaming. So when the whole haunted PS1 graphics thing gets, ends up, being done with it, because it's been, overused. Not as much as I hoped the DOS graphics craze would be overused. Especially something like mixing DOS graphics with manga panels, like what World of Horror did, which is, by the way, a Polish game, so fills me with patriotism. And also, the graphics were made in MS Paint, which kinda shocked me because they genuinely have that Junji Ito / Kentaro Miura quality to them. And if Kentaro Miura's own pupils fail to replicate his style after his death, then that is genuinely an impressive accomplishment. I always get lost on this level. If I recall correctly, yeah, there we go. There's the bridge that I erased. I didn't finish my sentence. Could you with these videos you couldn't probably tell that I have an English major because I'm terrible at speaking like that. In any way, I hope that when the PS1 graphics craze gets, a bit more low-key or finishes completely, because at this point I feel like it's a bit overused. Because it was started by the haunted PS1 disc and stuff like that, and it has PS1 in the name, obviously it's gonna have PS1 graphics, but when games regular horror games like Squirrel Stapler, well, Squirrel Stapler makes sense, although the graphics are a bit more PS1 than what they were intended to be, which is DOS and early Windows sort of stuff. The kind of time frame like Zoo Tycoon, a game I coincidentally also used to play as a kid. In any case, when this craze dies down, I hope we get started on a PS2 style graphics craze, and early 2000s games you would find in CD Action, or games you would get on a road trip, or the kind of stuff that was a big thing in my childhood and I still feel a massive nostalgia over. And really it's a hard style to nail, because sometimes I feel nostalgic to the art style of a game I haven't played as a kid, and sometimes I play a game that I played as a kid and I don't exactly feel any connection to the art style itself. But if you want to know what specific time frame and art style I'm talking about, that would be Metal Gear Solid 2 / the Devil May Cry trilogy on the PS2. That kind of point where human characters actually had human shapes and enough polygons to look human, but it still had that limited sorta stylized approach to the art style. So yeah, PS2 is definitely... And also one thing that I definitely remember from my childhood that was a product of that era is, I'm not sure if anyone else shares this specific very strong memory, but do you remember the time of like Crash Bandicoot, specifically the first three on the PS1? Crash Bandicoot to stuff like European viewers might recognize those Hugo games based on the Danish game show. That basically what I'm talking about is every adventure game for kids or a platformer or anything of that kind had a venomous plant as an enemy. And it culminated in a little known Polish game that's abandonware because the company shut down and also because the game is full of bugs and you know, not very well. The other game that they made, which was the terrible tie-in game based on the iconic Polish comic book series Tytus Romek and Atomek. The other game was, how should I say this, quite terrible, and that's the only publicity it gets, although it features a design poached from Doom. Well, I say poached because it looks exactly like the main villain of this game. And it's also the main final boss of that game, so, you know, it might not even be a coincidence. Either way, the game that I'm talking about by that studio is Mysterious Island, which has no relation to the book. Maybe a reason why that game isn't that well known, because if someone thinks about Mysterious Island, they think about, you know, the book by the absolute goat of science fiction, Julius Verne. Although I'm not sure if I can say Jules Verne was the first science fiction writer, because by technicality, I'm pretty sure Adam Mickiewicz, the you know, most famous. Well, I say most famous, but according to some studies I've seen, it's actually a bit contested. The most famous as of Poland, Polish writer, kind of wrote a science fiction novel called The History of the Future, which was written before World War I and featured stuff like flying vehicles, televisions, and space travel. Although, of course, in this typical retro-futuristic style, although retrofuturism is more like the 20th century. But there are only scraps of it left as he burned it. He burned the manuscript, and now all that remains is the letters he sent to his friends with fragments of the book. Which is kind of hilarious, considering some of the only element of my first book that I scrapped is also somewhere on Discord as a result of the same circumstances. Although I didn't burn my manuscript because it was a digital file after all. In any case, Mysterious Island had some really weird design choices, like the only female character, because the characters were a human, a robot, and a few like anthropomorphic animals scattered across the game world, and well, the only female character was a fox, which was permanently wearing a bikini. Which, first of all, it's an adventure game for kids, and also this was before furries were like a big movement. I wouldn't dare say before furries were invented, because ancient Egypt kind of had that covered. In any case. So it only, you know, the only explanation remains that this was obviously the writer's barely disguised fetish. I mean, a bikini-wearing literal foxy lady? In any case... Oh, I said it again. That game had walking carnivorous plants. And the way it got you is that they were just chilling in place, and once you came up closer, they would uproot themselves and start walking on leaves. Kinda like, kinda makes me think of the Plantoids from Stellaris, which is probably another game I would play on this channel. This is opened with a button. Either way, the original idea of having walking plant enemies was the one of few things I remember about this game, besides the weird voice acting of the reoccurring character of the totem god, and also the fox lady parading around in a bikini, which totally didn't awaken things in me for you know, years to come. In any case, we are... Oh, I said it again. There we go. We are approaching the final level. I think there's computer station and then the Deimos anomaly, I wanna say. I always forget which of the moons of Mars is first. Right, I forgot to mention the story. The plot of Doom is pretty simple. This is, of course, before games had story inside them, and you know, there were like entire short stories written in manuals. Shoutouts to Marathon, and also kinda Quake. Quake started it. The story is that our main character, colloquially known as Doom Guy, he attacks his commanding officer in the military for being forced to shoot on civilians during a protest, for which he's sent on a sort of penal expedition, or rather like penal duty of guarding the moon base on one of the moons of Mars, which is where we are now. Although I can't exactly remember which moon it is. I think the first one is Deimos, and then Phobos is in the second episode. And if you think about it, that is a pretty, one would say, based backstory, considering, you know, he disobeyed orders to protect innocent people and he got sent here. But as he arrives, he sees that everyone in the base is dead, and so is his new unit. So he decides to investigate, and well, demons. There is more lore to the demons in future games, but as the developers of this game said, story in Doom is like story in a porno. You expect it to be there, but you're not playing Doom for the story, much like you don't watch pornography for the witty dialogues, unless it's the absolute peak of human cinematographical achievements, which is the Lemon Steering Horse video, or the one with a lifeguard in a bathtub, if I recall correctly. In any case, enough talking about pornography, let's talk about the game. this what we're gonna do in this video is just the first episode, which is the shareware portion of the game, which was given out for free on diskettes or floppy disk, as they are called in America, for instance. Of course, I'm a continental European, so I'm not sure what they're called in Great Britain, but in most of continental Europe they're called diskettes. It is, of course, a long-standing joke, which is, you know, it's a testament to human technology that it's been such a long-standing joke that you can run Doom on anything, and also it will pretty much fit on anything, because the average website nowadays written in HTML code is actually weighs more megabytes than the entirety of this game, which is kind of funny considering I did some website programming in high school, so I guess I by sheer volume created more code than the entirety of Doom. In any case, I said it again. We are about to reach the ending of this level. However, it's good to pick up all the collectibles here. Not that they're needed for, you know, survival, because this game is, let's be honest, not that hard, especially in the first level, especially when you're playing on the easy difficulty. But you know, it's nice to see big numbers on the whole completion screen. Although not all of them are compatible. For instance, the par speed is actually a speedrunner target, which means you can get all the kills and items and secrets while also being on par, because, well, it's just not possible. So now we approach the Phobos anomaly, and this confirms that we are in fact on Phobos. This is where we get to use the rocket launcher, because as it is the final level of chapter 1, we're having a boss fight. Although first I have to clear out a few rooms to get to that button. So yeah, this is E1M8. The Doom notation system is episodes to maps, so episode 1, map 8. Episode 1 being, of course, Knee Deep in the Dead. And here we see the first two bosses, in a way. The Barons of Hell. Or the big badasses, as you'll see them called. And as you can see, they're not very hard to beat. We have some power-ups here, like the invisibility, which kind of makes me wonder what happens when we use the teleporter. So, as we approach the ending of the chapter, we figure out that, well, first of all, this is a pentagram, so that's funny. But we figure out we have been duped, and we are teleported into a room full of demons. And we get the ending scroll for this chapter, which I'm going to rewind, or rather skip, so I can, well, not really. Once you beat the big badasses and clean out the moon base, you're supposed to win, aren't you? Aren't you? Where's your fat reward and ticket home? What the hell is this? It's not supposed to end this way. It stinks like rotten meat, but looks like the Lost Deimos base. Looks like you're stuck on the shores of hell. The only way out is through. To continue the Doom experience, play The Shores of Hell and its amazing sequel, Inferno. And that was the shareware portion of the game, like I said, distributed on diskettes. And what remains is The Shores of Hell, Inferno, and the sort of expansion, one could say in modern terms, Die Flesh Consumed, which came out after Doom 2. In fact, it was quite modern, actually. Uh, in any case, I hope you enjoyed this Doom ASMR, and I'm sure I will maybe play more of this game on this channel someday. Although in moderation, it is after all a pretty short game, and those episodes obviously have to be longer, seeing as I beat the first episode in half an hour. In any case, I'm done. This was Night Snacks, and I hope to see you again.